The moment the screen lit up, Leo Anderson knew he'd made a mistake. He shouldn't have looked at Chloe's phone. As a software engineer, his respect for privacy was practically a religion. But tonight, after clocking out at 1 a.m. and coming home to cold takeout on the dining table, the realization that she'd forgotten his birthday for the third year in a row made the glowing screen feel like the apple in Eden, tempting him toward the fall. Dr. Wallace saw the test results. "Let's talk in my office tomorrow. Don't worry, I'll be there for you." Leo's finger hovered over the screen, his heart pounding like a drum solo. Above that 17-minute message were a dozen other unread notifications. His professional ethics warred with a primal urge to know, and lost decisively to that single glaring name, Dr. Wallace. He unlocked the phone with Chloe's birthday, her password for everything, including her bank app. He'd once teased her about her security hygiene, and she'd shot back with a grin. "That's what I have you for." He opened WhatsApp. Pinned to the top, besides his own chat, was a contact saved as Dr. Wallace. The most recent image was a lab report from a local clinic. Dated today. Leo frowned. Chloe had told him she was out shopping with her best friend, Jessica. As he scrolled up, his hand began to tremble. "Dr. Wallace, remember to take your meds. It hurts me to see you looking so worn out. Chloe, it's so good to have you looking out for me. Better than my live-in tech support. Who can't even remember when I get my period. Dr. Wallace, I rearranged my whole schedule for your follow-up next week. I just wanted to see you, Chloe. Red heart, you're the best." A wave of dizziness washed over Leo. He put the phone down, his gaze landing on a gift bag by the table. Pale pink wrapping stamped with the logo of Chloe's favorite designer. Inside was a delicate necklace. The pendant, a single polished J. Not L for Leo, J for Jessica. Leo let out a bitter laugh. Chloe had remembered her best friend's birthday and bought her an expensive gift, but had completely forgotten his. The irony was corrosive. He'd been working killer hours to ship a final build so he could take the long weekend off to spend with her. He took a deep breath, grabbed his laptop, and connected it to Chloe's phone. For a senior engineer, recovering deleted chat logs was child's play. 30 minutes later, Leo sat in the darkened living room, his pale face illuminated by the screen. The restored conversations were a dull knife, twisting slowly and methodically in his heart. In a chat window with Jessica, the words lay bare. "Jessica, Wallace is back in town. Did you know Chloe? He reached out. I'm still not over him." "Jessica, what about Leo? You guys have been together 3 years. Chloe, Leo's great, but he was a placeholder. Now the real thing is back." "Jessica, so when are you breaking up with him?" "Chloe, I'll wait. He's useful right now. Fixes my laptop, pays half the rent, drives me around like a glorified house sitter." Leo snapped the laptop shut, his fingers trembling uncontrollably. He walked into the bedroom, the moonlight illuminating Chloe's sleeping form. She was curled on her side of the bed, looking as innocent as a kitten. For 3 years, he'd slept carefully on the other edge, terrified of crowding her. He finally understood. No matter how hard he tried, he could never squeeze his way into her heart. Back in the living room, Leo opened his banking app and dissolved their joint account. He logged into Zillow and canceled the automatic renewal on their lease. He purged every photo of them from their shared iCloud and emptied the collaborative notes app of every reminder he'd ever set for her. Her allergies, her favorite coffee order, the number for her hair salon. Finally, he opened his work email and typed his resignation. The office was too close to hers. He couldn't stay. After it was all done, Leo stood by the window, watching the first hint of dawn streak the eastern sky. He thought of the diamond ring he'd bought 3 months ago, tucked away in his desk drawer, intended for a birthday proposal. Now the ring, along with a shattered heart, had lost its purpose. He left a note on the counter. "I'm gone. Don't look for me. You'll forget me as easily as you forgot today." Leo picked up the suitcase he'd packed weeks ago. He'd been ready to leave for a while. He just hadn't found the courage until now, and quietly closed the door behind him. Chloe pushed the door open at 2:18. "I'm humming a tune. "Leo, I'm home," she called out habitually, tossing Jessica's birthday gift, the box with a J necklace, onto the sofa. The only reply was the low hum of the refrigerator in a pitch-black living room. "Working late again," she mumbled, flicking the light switch. As the room flooded with light, she blinked, a strange feeling prickling at her that something was wrong. Her eyes swept across the living room and froze. The black Xbox controller was gone from the TV console, the one Leo used every night to unwind. Her heart began to hammer as she rushed to the bookshelf. A huge gap yawned on the third shelf, like a pulled tooth, where Leo's collection of O'Reilly programming manuals and sci-fi paperbacks used to be. "Leo!" Her voice started to shake as she ran barefoot to the bedroom. The moment she pushed the door open, a chill shot up from her feet. Leo's pillow was gone. The water bottle, glasses case, and charging station that always sat on his nightstand had vanished. The closet door was ajar. She yanked it open. His half was completely empty. Not a single hanger remained. In the bathroom, his razor, toothbrush, and towel were gone. The study was even worse. His entire desktop setup, monitor, keyboard, mousepad had disappeared. Even a framed photo of them at the beach last year was gone from the wall. Chloe collapsed onto the floor of the study, her mind a complete blank. She fumbled for her phone, her fingers shaking so badly, she failed the Face ID 3 times. On the 4th try, she got in and immediately called Leo. "The person you're trying to reach is unavailable," a robotic voice repeated coldly. She hung up and dialed again. Same message. On the 3rd try, she noticed the custom contact photo she'd set for him was gone, replaced by a gray default icon. WhatsApp, Slack, Instagram, Venmo, every app she could think of. Her messages failed to deliver or showed she'd been blocked. Her breathing grew ragged. She opened Twitter only to find he'd unfollowed her. A banner across their DMs reading, "This person isn't receiving messages from you right now." "This can't be happening," Chloe muttered, then scrambled to the front door. In the shoe rack, Leo's usual rotation of sneakers and dress shoes was gone, leaving only her lonely row of high heels. It was only then that she saw the post-it note stuck to the entryway table. It was Leo's neat, blocky handwriting. "I'm gone. Don't look for me. You'll forget me as easily as you forgot today." Chloe frowned. Then a horrible thought struck her. She flipped open her phone's calendar. July 21st SD, Leo's birthday. A sharp pain bloomed in her chest. She'd forgotten again. Last year, she'd forgotten too. And Leo had just smiled and said it was okay before quietly eating the cold takeout. The year before, she'd remembered. But Jessica was going through a breakup, and she'd stayed at her friend's place until 3 a.m. By the time she got home, Leo was asleep, the candles on the cake long since burned out, leaving behind a puddle of red wax. "No, this isn't right." Chloe shook her head, then had a sudden idea. She dialed 911. "Hello? I'd like to report a robbery. All my boyfriend's things are gone," she said, her voice cracking into a sob. 20 minutes later, 2 police officers were in her apartment. The older one examined the front door and frowned. "Ma'am, there are no signs of forced entry. Security footage shows only you and your boyfriend entering and exiting the premises today, but all his stuff is gone." Chloe cried, clutching her hair. The younger officer consulted his tablet. "We pulled the building's security feed. At 3:27 p.m. this afternoon, your boyfriend left with a suitcase. He returned twice more to carry out boxes." Chloe felt like she'd been struck by lightning. On the tablet screen, Leo calmly pushed a dolly loaded with boxes into the elevator, his face devoid of any expression. He looked as placid as if he were just heading to work. "That's impossible." Her knees gave out and she sank to the floor. The officers exchanged a look. The older one knelt down. "Did you two have a fight?" Chloe shook her head, the tears finally breaking free. "No, we were fine. You made me breakfast this morning." After the police left, Chloe wandered the apartment like a ghost. She opened the fridge. Even Leo's favorite craft beer was gone, leaving only her face masks and Greek yogurt. In the freezer, the dumplings he'd made from scratch were missing. The ones he'd stayed up late to prepare after she'd casually mentioned a craving last week. A thought struck her. She ran to her laptop and logged into her bank account. The joint account was listed as closed. Her own savings were untouched, but Leo's portion had been completely transferred out. Ping. An email notification. Chloe's hands trembled as she clicked it. It was from Zillow. The lease for your unit, co-signed by Leo Anderson, is set to expire at the end of this month. Non-renewal has been confirmed. Please vacate the premises within 30 days. Chloe's world spun. In one silent, brutal sweep, Leo had erased every trace of his 3 years in her life, as cleanly as hitting backspace on a line of useless code. She grabbed her keys and ran out the door, heading straight for Leo's company. The downtown office tower was empty at 4 a.m., and a security guard told her the tech firm's employees had left hours ago. Chloe sat on the steps outside the building until 9 a.m., when the first wave of employees began to arrive. Leo Anderson, he resigned yesterday, the receptionist told her, her words sending a chill through Chloe's body. He turned in his key card, cleared out his desk, didn't even stay for his exit interview. Did he say where he was going? Chloe asked, her voice raspy. The receptionist shook her head, her eyes full of pity. No, but he did leave a box with HR. Said it was personal effects. Do you want to see it? The box contained a few books and a single picture frame. Chloe picked it up. It was a selfie from their first date, the one Leo always kept on his desk. On the back, a post-it note was stuck to the frame. Please destroy. Thank you. Chloe's tears splattered onto the note, blurring the ink. She suddenly remembered someone. Mark, Leo's best friend and their old college classmate. When he answered, Chloe was practically sobbing. Mark, Leo's gone. Please, you have to tell me where he is. The line was silent for a few seconds before Mark's voice, cold as steel, cut through the phone. He doesn't want to see you. Why? What happened? We were fine, Chloe screamed hysterically. Fine. Mark let out a cold, sharp laugh. Chloe, look in a mirror and ask yourself in the last 3 years. When did you ever put him first? When he had a 102 degrees fever. Did you take him to the hospital? No. When his mom died. Did you even go to the funeral? No. Because Jessica wanted to go shopping. Chloe felt the blood drain from her face. I didn't know. You don't know anything. Mark cut her off. Because you never bothered to see him. He's had enough. Respect his decision. The line went dead. Chloe stood on the bustling street, feeling a loneliness so profound it stole her breath. Meanwhile, in a business hotel across town, Leo sat on the bed, organizing files on his laptop. A folder on his desktop was labeled Exit Plan, filled with neatly categorized screenshots and audio recordings. He clicked on an audio file. Chloe's tipsy voice filled the room. Jessica, I'll tell you a secret. I've never really been in love with Leo. I've only ever had a thing for Dr. Wallace. He's just a placeholder for when he's not around. Leo closed the file, his face a mask of indifference. He opened his photo gallery, filled with candid shots he'd taken of Chloe. Sleeping, eating, watching TV, even angry. Each photo was time-stamped with the date and context. He selected all, deleted them, and emptied the trash. His phone vibrated. A text from Mark. She called me. Say what you told me to. Leo replied with a simple thanks. Then opened a browser and started searching for the next flight to Austin. An old classmate had a startup there. Had been trying to poach him for months. Outside, the first rays of sun broke through the clouds. Leo stood at the window, looking out over the city he'd lived in for a decade. He knew that somewhere, in some apartment, Chloe was probably looking for him frantically. But this time he wasn't turning back. For 3 years, he had been the quiet background of her life, waiting for the occasional glance in his direction. Now he was exiting the stage entirely, leaving her to see what the spotlight felt like when it was empty. Leo turned off his phone, drew the curtains, and let the darkness swallow him. Just before he drifted off, he remembered a chat he'd accidentally seen between Chloe and Jessica last week. He actually asked me what style of ring I liked. LOL. With his salary, what's he going to buy? A Cracker Jack prize. He had been planning to use his entire savings to buy her that one. 5-carat diamond. Now, the ring sat in its box in his desk drawer, destined like his broken heart to never see the light of day again. Chloe's finger hovered, trembling over the keyboard. This was her 5th attempt to log into Leo's company internet. The first 4 had failed. Password incorrect. This time, she typed in the name of the restaurant from their first date. Azure Point 0923. Login successful. Oh my God. Chloe bit her lip, her heart racing. Even his work password was about her, and she couldn't even remember his birthday. A spreadsheet showed the handover notes from Leo's departure. Her eyes locked on a name. Catherine Evans, Director of Engineering, Leo's direct supervisor. She scribbled down the phone number and dialed immediately. Hello, Director Evans. My name is Chloe Miller. I'm Leo Anderson's. She hesitated. Girlfriend, I need to know where he is. There was a pause on the other end. Ms. Miller. Catherine's voice was calm and professional. Company policy prevents me from disclosing the whereabouts of former employees. However, another pause. If you were to go to the Starbucks in the tech park right now, you might just run into him. He has a meeting there today. Chloe almost knocked over her chair. Thank you. Thank you so much. She grabbed her purse and bolted, forgetting to even hang up the phone. 20 minutes later, Chloe stood panting outside the Starbucks, peering through the glass. She saw him instantly. He was wearing the navy blue button-down she'd given him for his birthday last year. Leo was talking to a man in a suit. His expression was focused and calm, not at all the heartbroken mess she'd imagined. A sharp pain lanced through Chloe's chest. In the 3 days she'd been frantically searching for him, he'd been calmly interviewing for a new job. She took a deep breath and pushed open the door. The smell of coffee hit her. Leo's back was to her. He didn't notice. Not until she was standing right in front of him. Leo, Chloe's voice was choked. We need to talk. His expression instantly turned to ice. I'm in a meeting, he said, his voice terrifyingly calm. The man across from him tactfully stood up. We can continue this later, Mr. Anderson. Think about my offer. Singapore could really use a talent like you. Singapore. The word hit Chloe like a physical blow. He was leaving the country. After the man left, Leo started packing his laptop. Chloe grabbed his wrist. Please, just 5 minutes. His wrist was cool, his pulse steady. It didn't flicker. It used to be that the slightest touch from her would make his heart race. Now he pulled his hand away as if from a stranger. I'll text you the address, Leo said, walking toward the door without a backward glance. Be there at 8 tonight. Don't be late. Chloe stood frozen, watching his back disappear into the crowd. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number, his new one. It contained only an address and 8 p.m. She clutched the phone like it was the last lifeline she had. At 7:45 p.m., Chloe stood in front of an unfamiliar apartment building. It was a new complex on the west side of the city, a full hour's drive from their old place. She rang the bell, no answer. At exactly 8 p.m., the lock clicked open automatically. She pushed the door open and gasped. The apartment was almost completely bare, furnished with only the absolute essentials. A bed, a desk, 2 chairs. Leo's suitcase lay open in a corner, a few changes of clothes and a toiletry bag packed neatly inside, ready to be grabbed at a moment's notice. Close the door. Leo's voice came from the balcony. Chloe shut the door and walked out. Leo was leaning against the railing, smoking. She'd never known him to smoke. The red glow of the cigarette illuminated his gaunt profile against the night sky. When did you start smoking? She asked softly. I always have. He blew out a ring of smoke. You just didn't like it, so I quit. The words stabbed into her heart. She thought of all the times he'd been getting some air on the balcony. He'd been secretly smoking. She'd never noticed, just as she'd never really known him. Lo, what is happening? Her voice trembled. Why did you just leave? I thought we were fine. Leo let out a cold laugh, stubbing out the cigarette and walking back inside. He flipped open his laptop. The moment the screen lit up, Chloe saw her own WhatsApp interface. "What's your chat history?" Leo said, his voice terrifyingly serene. "All of it, including the messages you deleted." The color drained from Chloe's face. On the screen was her conversation with Jessica. The latest message was from 3 days ago. "I think Leo found out about me and Dr. freaking out." "You? How'd you get this?" Her legs felt weak. She could barely stand. "I'm a programmer, remember?" His voice held a sarcastic edge she'd never heard before. "Recovering deleted data is like breathing to me." He clicked open a folder, neatly organized with screenshots and audio files. Chloe saw countless conversations she thought were long gone. Her and Jessica laughing about how cheap his gifts were. Her complaining to her friend that he wasn't romantic. The countless times she'd bailed on him for a call from Jessica. The most damning was a subfolder named Ring. Leo opened it and the screen displayed her chat with Jessica about the proposal. "Jessica, Leo asked what kind of ring you like. Don't tell me he's going to propose." "LMAO, Chloe with his salary. My friend's husband got her a 3-carat Tiffany. He'd be lucky to afford silver." "Jessica, so are you going to say yes?" "Chloe, I'll just string him along for a bit. He pays the rent, so I'll wait until Dr. Wallace is back for good." A knot of pain tightened in Chloe's stomach. She remembered that conversation. It was a joke she made with Jessica last month after Leo had asked her about ring styles. She never imagined he would see it. "It's not like that," she stammered. "I was just joking with Jessica." Leo opened another file without a word. It was a bank statement screenshot showing a balance of $85,000 in his savings account dated the day before their chat. "It took me 3 years to save that," Leo said, his voice barely a whisper. "I was going to buy that one, 5-carat diamond you liked, then use the rest for a down payment on a house in a good school district." He paused. "Looks like I saved myself the trouble." Tears streamed down Chloe's face. $85,000. He had that much saved. This was the man who wouldn't even buy himself a $6 latte. Yet he was willing to spend everything on her. "Leo, I was wrong." She felt her knees, grabbing his pants leg. "None of that was real. I was just showing off for Jessica." Leo gently pulled away and clicked on an audio file. Chloe's drunken voice filled the room. "The truth is, I've never really been in love with Leo. I've only ever had a thing for Dr. Wallace. He's just a placeholder for when he's not around." The recording ended. The room was deathly silent. Chloe sat paralyzed on the floor, shaking. "That was from Jessica's birthday party 3 months ago. I've been blackout drunk. I didn't even remember saying those things." "That's not true," she whispered. "Should I play more?" Leo's voice was ice. "Your chats with Dr. Wallace. The proof of every time you lied about working late to go see him. The complete timeline of you using me as an ATM and a backup plan." The name hit her like a physical blow. Dr. Wallace. When had she ever? Suddenly, she remembered. She looked up frantic. "Wait, Dr. Wallace is just my therapist. We were talking about my depression treatment." Leo let out a cold laugh and opened another chat log. It was between her and Dr. Wallace. "Dr. Wallace, I booked the restaurant for tonight. 8 o'clock, the usual spot." "Chloe, okay. Miss you." Chloe's mind went blank. It wasn't what it looked like. We were trying exposure therapy," she explained, her words tumbling out. "The usual spot is the coffee shop next to his clinic." Leo closed the laptop. "It doesn't matter anymore," he said, standing up. "Dr. Wallace, Jessica, whatever. None of it matters. The only fact is that you never loved me and I was stupid enough to love you for 3 years." He walked to the door and held it open. "Please leave." A dam of anger suddenly burst inside Chloe. She leaped to her feet, rushing at him. "How dare you do this to me? Hacking my private chats, spying on my every move, then running away like a coward. Why do you have to judge my feelings?" Leo just watched her hysterical outburst, his eyes terrifyingly calm. Then he pulled out his phone, played a video, and held it in front of her face. In the video, a drunk Chloe was leaning on Jessica's shoulder, her face streaked with tears. "He's so good to me, but every time I see how much he loves me, it just makes me hate myself more because I can't give him the same love back. It's only ever been Dr. Wallace since college." Chloe's anger deflated like a popped balloon. She stared at the woman in the video, a wave of shame washing over her. Those were her most secret thoughts, the ones she never even dared admit to herself. She tried to explain, but no words came. "Go," Leo said, his voice weary and final. "We're done." Chloe didn't know how she left the apartment. The last thing she remembered was the elevator doors closing, framing Leo, standing alone in the empty room, his shadow stretching long and lonely behind him like a lighthouse on a desolate shore. The next morning, Chloe was woken by her phone. It was Catherine Evans. "Ms. Miller, sorry to bother you." The director's voice was much softer than before. "I just wanted to let you know Leo accepted the offer in Singapore. His flight is next Wednesday." Chloe's heart stopped. "He's really leaving?" "Yes." Catherine paused. "Look, I was his senior in college. I've known him for 10 years. I've never seen him care about anyone the way he cared about you. The company offered him a transfer to our Silicon Valley office last year, and he turned it down for you. Last month, a VC I know wanted to fund his startup idea, and he refused because he didn't want you to live an unstable life." Tears slid silently down Chloe's cheeks. "I don't know what happened between you two," Catherine said softly, "but if you want to fix this, this is your last chance." After hanging up, Chloe curled up on her bed, clutching the only thing Leo had left behind in their old apartment, a coffee mug with her photo printed on it. In the picture, he was hugging her, his smile as bright as the sun. She was looking just past the camera, her gaze distant. She suddenly understood why he'd left it. It was the perfect symbol of their relationship. His world revolved around her, while her eyes were always fixed on something else. "Chloe, is this the proposal you submitted?" The client's roar pierced the office. Every head turned toward Chloe. She stared at the document on her screen, covered in red markups, her throat tight. It was her third major mistake this week. The first two were just data entry errors. This was a fundamental strategic flaw in an entire campaign. "I'm sorry, I'll fix it right away." Chloe's voice was a whisper. "Right away." The director sneered, slamming a folder on her desk. "The client meeting is in an hour. How exactly are you going to fix it right away?" He turned to another desk. "Ashley, you take over." Chloe shrank in her seat as her colleague, Ashley, efficiently pulled up the file and started working. Not long ago, Chloe had been the star top performer for 3 years, running the highest client satisfaction scores. Now, she couldn't even put together a basic proposal. Her phone vibrated. A text from her landlord. "Ms. Miller, please arrange to move out as soon as possible. The new tenants move in next week." Chloe bit her lip. Since Leo had canceled the lease renewal, the landlord had given her a month, but every apartment she'd looked at was too expensive, too far, or just didn't feel like home. For 3 years, Leo had handled everything. Finding the place, signing the lease, paying the rent. All she had to do was move in. "Chloe, you okay?" Ashley asked during their lunch break, handing her a coffee. "You've been really out of it lately." Chloe forced a smile. "It's nothing. Just went through a breakup with Leo." Ashley's eyes widened. "The programmer who used to bring you lunch every day?" Chloe nodded, a lump forming in her throat. Yes, the programmer who brought her a different lovingly prepared lunch every single day. The man who remembered all her preferences and allergies would never be in her life again. "That explains it," Ashley said thoughtfully. "It poured last Thursday, and I wondered why no one was there to pick you up with an umbrella." Chloe froze. Last Thursday's downpour. She'd gotten soaked to the bone. Before, on every rainy day, Leo would be waiting downstairs right on time with an umbrella and a dry towel. She'd never even considered how he knew. He must have had a weather alert set just for her, one of the countless invisible things he did. After work, She dragged her exhausted body back to the apartment. She opened the door to chaos. Moving boxes were stacked halfway to the ceiling. Her clothes, shoes, and makeup were strewn everywhere. The once cozy home now looked like an abandoned warehouse. She kicked off her heels and collapsed onto the sofa. The slipcover was already packed, revealing the slightly worn fabric underneath. She remembered picking it out with Leo at IKEA. She thought it was too plain, but he'd said it was durable and easy to clean. Looking back, he was always thinking about practicality while she only cared about appearances. A post-it note was stuck to the coffee table in Leo's handwriting. Building Super 555-8X. The drain clogs sometimes call this number. She peeled it off and found another one underneath. Internet support 1-800X. Call them if restarting the router doesn't work. And another, clean the AOC filter monthly. Instructions in the shared notes app. Tears splattered onto the small squares of paper. The notes were like ghosts of Leo still taking care of her. She frantically tore them all off, reading them one by one. Due dates for utility bills, sale days at the nearby grocery store, the number for her favorite nail salon. Each one a testament to his silent love. She stumbled into the study and pulled open every drawer. In a folder at the very bottom, she found a black moleskine notebook. The first page read, in Leo's neat script, Chloe's manual, 420 pages. It was filled with everything about her. Her favorite foods, colors and flavors, her allergies, her menstrual cycle, her emotional patterns, even a detailed guide on how to cheer her up when she's mad. The last page was titled Proposal Plan. Buy the ring, budget $80,000. Rent a beach house for the weekend. Invite her parents and friends. Get her favorite champagne and strawberry shortcake. Chloe's vision blurred. $80,000. He was going to spend that much on a ring, and he wouldn't even buy himself a $6 latte. Her phone rang. It was Jessica. Chloe. Guess who I just ran into at the tech summit? Jessica's voice was giddy. Leo. Chloe's heart leaped. How? How is he? He looked amazing. Sharp suit, hobnobbing with all these big shot execs. Jessica paused. I told him you've been a wreck lately, and you know what he did? Chloe clutched the phone. What did he say? He just gave me this cold look and said, "That's not my concern," and walked away. Jessica scoffed, acting all high and mighty. He was like a lost puppy when he was chasing you. Stop it, Chloe suddenly yelled. Jessica, I have to ask you, what was really going on with Dr. Wallace? There was a silence on the other end. What about him? Leo. He said he saw flirty messages between me and him. Chloe's voice trembled. Oh, that, Jessica said dismissively. That was just your therapy stuff, wasn't it? What could he possibly misunderstand? Chloe bit her lip. The chats Leo had shown her did contain some lines that blurred the doctor-patient boundary. But what about the things she'd said when she was drunk? Did she really only see Leo as a placeholder? Chloe, don't overthink it. Jessica's tone suddenly softened. Come out for a drink tonight. I invited Dr. Wallace. He said he really misses you. A shiver went down Chloe's spine. No, I'm not going. A thought suddenly struck her. Wait, how did you invite Dr. Wallace? Do you two know each other? You introduced us, remember? Jessica stammered. Anyway, I gotta go. Talk to you later. The line went dead, leaving Chloe in a silent room with her chaotic thoughts. When had she ever introduced Jessica and Dr. Wallace? She had no memory of it. Meanwhile, at the tech summit across town, Leo was in conversation with a group of investors. Since deciding to leave, he'd thrown himself into his work, filling every waking minute with code and algorithms, leaving no room for memories. Mr. Anderson, a pleasure. A middle-aged man handed him a business card. I heard you turned down an offer from Silicon Valley. A true win for the domestic tech scene. Leo smiled politely. You're too kind. I hear Director Evans set you up with a project in Singapore. How's that going? As Leo was about to answer, he caught a glimpse of a familiar figure. Jessica, Chloe's best friend, walking toward them. He quickly ended the conversation and turned to leave, but she intercepted him. "Lo." Jessica was wearing a tight dress, her makeup flawless. "Long time no see." Leo gave a curt nod. "Can I help you?" "Don't be so cold," Jessica said with a fake smile. "Chloe's been a mess. You know, screwing up at work, getting evicted, crying her eyes out every night." Leo's expression remained unchanged. "That's not my concern." Fisk TSK. "So heartless." Jessica shook her head. "She spent 3 years in your bed. Even if there's no credit, there's at least effort, right?" Leo's eyes turned to ice. "Please have some self-respect. If there's nothing else, you'll have to excuse me." He turned to go, but Jessica suddenly lowered her voice. "Does she know you hacked her phone? That's illegal, you know." Leo stopped and slowly turned back. "She knows." He took a step closer. "And she knows about you and Dr. Wallace." The color drained from Jessica's face. What? Don't play dumb." Leo's voice was as sharp as a scalpel. "You introduced Dr. Wallace to Chloe to break us up because you knew Chloe had a crush on him in college." Jessica's lips began to tremble. "You're insane." "I have the chat logs," Leo said, pulling out his phone. "Yours and his. Yours and hers. Even." He gave a cold smile. "Yours and her ex-boyfriend's. Should I play them for you?" Jessica stumbled backward, twisting her ankle in her high heel. "You're a sicko." Leo put his phone away. "I'm just a programmer. Data recovery is my job." He gave her one last look before walking away. "Tell Chloe to stop looking for me. You two are perfect for each other. Be happy." Leaving the convention center, Leo stood on the curb, waiting for a car. The night wind swept his hair back, revealing the exhaustion in his eyes. He hadn't had a full night's sleep in weeks. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Chloe's face, smiling, angry, pouting, and at last, her hysterical breakdown. His phone vibrated. A text from Mark. "She came to see me. Crying a lot. Want to see you?" Leo sighed and replied, "Ignore her. I think she really regrets it." Mark texted back, "She didn't even know you were the one who got her dad into the cardiac unit." Leo's finger hovered over the screen. Last year, Chloe's father had a sudden heart attack. He had been the one to pull strings all night to get him the best cardiologist in the city. Chloe had been out of town on a business trip, and he'd stayed at the hospital for 3 days and nights until her father was stable. He never mentioned it, and Chloe just assumed it was standard hospital procedure. "It's over," he finally replied, and turned off his phone. The Uber drove through the glittering streets, neon lights dancing across the window. Leo leaned back, remembering the first time he saw Chloe. It was at a company holiday party. She was wearing a red dress, a flash of fire in his black and white world. He'd worked up the courage to ask for her number, and so began 3 years of one-sided devotion. Now, that fire had finally consumed all his patience and love, leaving nothing but ashes. The next morning, Chloe, with dark circles under her eyes, knocked on Mark's door. Mark, Leo's best friend and their old college classmate, answered in his pajamas, blocking the doorway with a scowl. "I told you he won't see you, please." Chloe's voice was raspy. "Just tell me if he's okay." Mark sighed and stepped aside. The apartment was a disaster zone of takeout containers and beer cans. Chloe carefully cleared a space on the sofa and sat down. "He's flying to Singapore next week," Mark said, pouring her a glass of water. "Catherine Evans set him up with a project. Double the salary, stock options." Chloe clutched the glass. "He's really going. What else is he supposed to do?" Mark sneered. "Stay here and let you walk all over him again?" Tears welled up in Chloe's eyes. "I didn't. I really do love him." "Love him?" Mark suddenly grew agitated. He pulled a binder from a bookshelf and slammed it on the coffee table. "This is how you loved him." Chloe tremblingly opened the binder. It was filled with photos and receipts. A picture of Leo asleep at his desk late at night. A post-it next to him reading, "Make Chloe breakfast." A hospital receipt dated the day she had the flu. A bank statement showing a recurring monthly transfer of $1,000 to an unknown account. What? What is this? Chloe picked up the bank statement. That's the money he sent your mom every month, Mark said coldly. Ever since your dad got sick and couldn't work, your mom thought it was from you. Chloe felt like she'd been struck by lightning. Her mom was always praising her for being so responsible, saying the money always arrived on time. She thought it was from her dad's pension. Mark threw a flash drive onto the table. This is his Chloe's World folder from his computer. Everything about you, from your food preferences to your emotional cycles. And even, he smirked, a step-by-step guide on how to calm you down after one of your tantrums. Chloe couldn't hold it in any longer. She broke down, sobbing. She had always thought Leo was boring and unromantic, never realizing he had committed every detail of her life to memory, loving her in the most earnest, if clumsy, way possible. Mark, please, she wept. Tell me how I can get him back. Mark was silent for a long time before finally shaking his head. It's too late, Chloe. Some wounds can't be fixed with an apology. He pointed to the door. Go and don't come back. He doesn't want to see you and I can't help you. Chloe stumbled to her feet and walked to the door. Just as she was about to leave, Mark said, By the way, he asked me to tell you he refunded the security deposit to your Venmo. The password is your birthday. That was the last straw. Chloe collapsed in the hallway outside Mark's apartment, crying her heart out. Only now did she truly understand what she had lost. A man who had loved her with his entire being, and she had never, not once, appreciated it. Chloe stared at the flight information on her phone, her throat tight. Flight UA 895, San Francisco to Singapore, departing at 10:30 p.m. Mark had finally caved and told her last night on the condition that she never bother him again. At 5 p.m., Chloe was already at SFO's International Terminal. She was wearing the blue dress Leo had bought her. He'd once said it was his favorite color on her. Her hair was done, her makeup meticulous. It was the first time she'd made an effort in 3 weeks. The check-in counters were deserted. Chloe sat on a nearby bench, her hands clenched so tightly, her nails dug into her palms. She rehearsed what she would say. Leo, I was wrong. Please give me another chance. I love you. Every phrase felt hollow, but she had nothing else. At 8 p.m., the terminal began to fill with people. Her eyes were glued to the entrance. At 9:15, her heart skipped a beat. Leo walked in wearing a dark gray suit and pushing a suitcase. He was thinner. His already sharp features were more pronounced with faint shadows under his eyes, but he stood tall and straight. Chloe shot to her feet, but her legs felt like lead. She opened her mouth, but no sound came out. Leo walked straight to the business class check-in and handed over his passport. Chloe took a deep breath, forced herself to take one step, then another, and found herself standing a few feet behind him. Lo! Her voice was a wisp of air. Leo's back stiffened. He turned around slowly, his eyes as blank and unfamiliar as a stranger's, breaking her heart. What are you doing here? His voice was terrifyingly calm. Tears instantly flooded Chloe's eyes. I don't want you to go. She grabbed his sleeve. I know I was wrong. I really know. Please, just give me one more chance. Leo gently pulled his arm away. There's a line. Please don't hold things up. No. Chloe's voice rose, drawing stares from people nearby. You can't just leave. 3 years and you won't even give me a chance to explain. A flicker of something crossed Leo's eyes, then was gone. Explain what? He shook his head. How you used me as a backup. How you mocked me behind my back. How you... His voice finally wavered. How you trampled my heart into the ground. Chloe staggered back. It wasn't like that. None of it was true. I was just what? Leo scoffed. Trying to act cool for your friend? Just making a joke? He shook his head. Chloe, you can't even be honest in your apology. I'm not lying, she cried hysterically. I love you. I really do. Leo's expression softened into one of pure exhaustion. He reached into his pocket, pulled out a flash drive and handed it to her. Here, this is the proof that I loved you. It's all yours now. Chloe took the drive, her hand trembling. What is this? Every memory I ever recorded of you over the last 3 years, Leo said quietly. Photos, videos, journal entries. All the love letters I never had the courage to send. He paused. It was supposed to be a surprise for our anniversary. Now it doesn't matter. Chloe's tears splashed onto the small device. Leo, please. Excuse me. A clear male voice cut in. Chloe turned to see a tall man in a crisp white shirt hurrying over. Her eyes widened in shock. Dr. Wallace, what are you doing here? She blurted out. Dr. Wallace ignored her, speaking directly to Leo. Mr. Anderson, I have to clear this up. Those messages were about Chloe's mother's medical condition, not what you think. Leo raised an eyebrow. Oh, and see you at the usual spot was about her condition, too. It's the coffee shop next to my clinic. Dr. Wallace said urgently. Her mother didn't want Chloe to know her cancer had returned, so we met there to talk. He pulled out his phone. Look, here are the medical records and appointment logs. Leo glanced at the screen, his expression unchanged. Even if that's true, so what? Chloe and Dr. Wallace both froze. The misunderstanding isn't the point, Leo said, his voice chillingly calm. The point is she never loved me. In vino veritas. Remember? He looked at Chloe. You said it yourself. I was just a placeholder until he came back. Dr. Wallace's face paled. What? Chloe's world tilted on its axis. She had said those things in a drunken stupor. But did she love Leo? 3 weeks ago, she would have said, of course. But now she wasn't sure. Did she love him? Or did she love his devotion, his care, his sacrifices? I don't know, she mumbled. Leo gave a bitter smile. See, you can't even lie about it anymore. He turned to the check-in agent. I'd like to check my bag, please. Chloe watched horrified as he was handed his boarding pass. The whole scene played out in a slow-motion nightmare. As Leo turned toward the security gate, she finally broke. Leo Anderson! She screamed his full name. You can't just walk away. You can't make me realize what a horrible person I am and then just leave. It's not fair. Leo stopped but didn't turn around. Life isn't fair. Took me 3 years to learn that. I hope it doesn't take you as long. Chloe sank to her knees, her vision blurred with tears. Dr. Wallace tried to help her up, but she shoved him away. She watched Leo's back get smaller and smaller until he disappeared into the crowd at the security checkpoint. Chloe! Dr. Wallace knelt beside her. I'm so sorry. Get away from me, she shrieked. This is all your fault. If it weren't for you, it wasn't me. Dr. Wallace shook his head. The problem was there long before I showed up. He sighed. Your mother was right. You never knew how to appreciate what was right in front of you. Chloe's head snapped up. My mother. She always adored Leo, Dr. Wallace said with a sad smile. Every time she came for a checkup, she'd ask, how's that wonderful young man doing? The words struck Chloe like a physical blow. Her mother, like Leo, she suddenly remembered how her mom's face would light up whenever he visited, how she'd cook a huge meal, and Chloe had never even noticed. Dr. Wallace handed her a tissue. Do you need a ride home? Chloe shook her head, clutching the flash drive. She stumbled to her feet and walked toward the exit. Every step felt like walking on broken glass, but she knew the pain was nothing compared to what Leo had endured for 3 years. Back at the apartment, if the box-filled space could still be called that, Chloe immediately plugged the flash drive into her laptop. There was a single folder named CM. She clicked it open. Inside was a cascade of subfolders organized by date from the day they met until 3 weeks ago. Chloe randomly opened an early one. It contained a few photos and a text document. The photos were from the company holiday party. Her in the red dress, smiling brightly. Leo had taken them from a distance, but he perfectly captured her spirit. The document was a journal entry. Met a girl like a flame today. Her name is Chloe Miller from marketing. I worked up the nerve to ask for her number and she gave it to me. She said she thinks guys who can code are smart. Maybe I should sign up for an advanced course. Fresh tears streamed down Chloe's face. She remembered that party, remembered the shy way Leo had approached her, but she never knew he had actually enrolled in an advanced programming class because of her offhand comment. She tremblingly clicked on another folder from her birthday last year. The photo was of her making a wish over a cake with Leo gazing at her, his expression so tender it could melt glaciers. The journal entry read, "Chloe was so serious making her wish today. I hope all her wishes come true. I secretly added one of my own. I hope I'm in one of her wishes. Bought the engagement ring, 5 carats. It wiped out my savings, but she deserves even better. I have to work harder." A knot of pain tightened in Chloe's stomach. What did she wish for that day? Promotion, probably, and for Dr. Wallace to come back. She couldn't remember, but she knew it had nothing to do with Leo. She kept clicking each folder, a new knife in her heart. Leo had documented every smile, every casual remark, every trivial preference. He remembered every book she mentioned, every movie she wanted to see, even every coworker she complained about. Some folders contained photos of handwritten letters, the script neat, and the words full of love, letters he had never sent. The last folder was labeled Proposal Plan. It contained a detailed timeline, venue photos, a budget spreadsheet, and even a video of him practicing his proposal speech. In the video, a nervous Leo was sweating, but his eyes were full of hope. "Chloe, meeting you was the luckiest thing that ever happened to me," he said to the camera. "No, that's too cheesy. Take 2. Chloe slammed the laptop shut, unable to bear anymore. She curled up on the floor, sobbing uncontrollably. The content of the flash drive proved one thing. Leo had loved her more than life itself, and she had never truly seen him. Outside, a plane streaked across the sky. Chloe looked up, imagining Leo in a window seat, finally flying toward a future without her, while she was trapped here in a prison of her own making, finally seeing the full extent of her blindness and selfishness. She picked up her phone and dialed her mom. "Mom, can I come home for a while?" Her mother's voice was full of surprise and concern. "Of course, sweetie. Is Leo coming with you?" The question was the final straw that broke her. "He's gone, Mom, and he's never coming back." Her mother was silent for a moment, then said softly, "Come home, baby. Mom's waiting for you." After hanging up, Chloe looked back at the computer screen. The open folder seemed to mock her. She finally understood that some mistakes can't be fixed, and some wounds never heal. Leo's love had been a perfect whole thing, and she had only learned to cherish it after she had shattered it completely. Outside, the sun was setting, painting the room in shades of blood red. Chloe sat where the light met the shadow, half in brightness, half in darkness, just like her heart, half regretting the past, half terrified of the future. The rain in Singapore came down in a sudden, violent torrent. Leo stood at his apartment's floor-to-ceiling window, watching the drops trace paths down the glass, looking too much like Chloe's tears at the airport. A year, 365 days. He thought he'd forget, but memory was like the rain seeping in through every crack. His phone buzzed. A message from Catherine Evans. "Project is a huge success. Investors are thrilled. When are you coming back to the States?" Leo sat down his coffee. Next month, he typed short, precise, devoid of emotion. Over the past year, he'd learned to communicate with the efficiency of code, leaving no room for ambiguity. Outside, the lights of Marina Bay Sands blurred in the downpour like a watercolor painting. He opened his laptop to refine the algorithm for a smart home system. His first major project in Singapore, already attracting VC interest. A push notification popped up on a screen, viral. This programmer's heartbreaking HTML5 game about her lost love is making the whole internet cry. Leo's instinct was to close it, but his eyes caught the username. Chloe__. Eventually, his finger froze over the mouse, his heart suddenly picking up its rhythm. It was Chloe's old screen name, one he'd followed secretly but never interacted with. Logic told him to ignore it. His finger clicked the link. A minimalist web game loaded titled Finding Elle. The game opened with a pixel art animation. A girl in a blue dress wandered through a maze searching for someone named Elle. Each completed level unlocked a memory fragment. Leo's hand trembled. The layout of the first maze was their first date restaurant. The background of the second was the company holiday party. The pixelated girl in a red dress eerily accurate. The third, he slammed the laptop shut, his breathing shallow. When did Chloe learn to code a game? This used advanced CSS animations and JavaScript interactions far beyond beginner-level stuff. His phone buzzed again. This time it was Mark. Dude, have you seen the game Chloe made? The whole office is passing it around. Leo didn't reply. He went to the bathroom and splashed cold water on his face. The man in the mirror was gaunt, with dark circles under his eyes. He'd been working too much and sleeping too little. Back at his desk, he tried to force his mind back to his code. But the pixelated images wouldn't leave. How did she remember all this? The color of his shirt on their first date, the stupid jokes he'd made, his favorite brand of coffee. He stood up, frustrated, and decided to hit the gym. On his way out, his gaze fell on a locked drawer in his desk. Inside was the 1.5-carat diamond ring. He'd never had the courage to throw it out or look at it again. Meanwhile, in a therapist's office in San Francisco, Chloe was calmly recounting the changes of the past year. After the game went viral, a lot of companies reached out for digital storytelling projects, she said, smiling at her therapist. I quit my old job. A friend and I started a small creative studio. The therapist nodded. How's your sleep? Much better, Chloe said, fiddling with her fingers. The first few months I needed sleeping pills. Now, I still have some bad nights, but I can usually manage. Do you still dream about him? Chloe's smile faltered for a second. Sometimes, the therapist jotted down a note. The game you made, it with the programming skills he taught you? Yes, Chloe's eyes softened. He only taught me the basics. I took night classes for the rest. Took 3 months, staying up until 3 a.m. Every night. Her voice grew quiet. I wanted to tell him I'd changed in a language he would understand. Do you think he's played it? Chloe shook her head. I don't know. Mark thinks he probably saw it, but... She gave a sad smile. Even if he did, so what? The damage is done. The therapist put down her pen. Chloe, you made incredible progress this year. From a complete breakdown to living independently, starting a business, and expressing yourself so creatively. But let me ask you one thing. If Leo never comes back, can you accept that? Chloe was silent. The afternoon sun filtered through the blinds, casting shifting patterns on her face. The hysterical girl from a year ago was gone, replaced by a woman with steady eyes and a quiet confidence. I can, she finally said. I'm not doing this to win him back. I'm doing it to be worthy of that love. He taught me what love was, and I didn't learn in time. Now I finally understand. The therapist smiled. That's growth. Leaving the office, Chloe stood on the curb waiting for a lift. The San Francisco fog was rolling in. She opened her phone. The game's analytics showed another record day for traffic. The comments section was flooded. I'm sobbing. Mr. L, please come back. This is the most romantic thing I've ever seen. We need a sequel. This girl is a genius. Writing a love letter in code. Chloe scrolled through them without replying. She opened her DMs, reading through the messages when her finger stopped. A message from an anonymous account. There's a bug in the password hint for level 3. It should be Azure. 0923 not Azure. A detail. Even she had only found out by peeking at his computer once. Her fingers shook as she typed. Who is this? The message was marked as read, but no reply came. Her lift arrived. She got in, dazed, her heart pounding. Was it him or a friend who knew their story? A coincidence? Back at her small apartment in the Mission, Chloe immediately opened her laptop and checked the game's code. Sure enough, in the password validation for level 3, she'd accidentally typed 0924. It was such a tiny typo, No ordinary player would have ever noticed. She stared at the DM for a long time but didn't reply. If it was Leo, he would reach out again. If it wasn't, she wouldn't give herself false hope. Her phone rang. It was Dr. Wallace, or Dr. Yang as she now knew him. "Chloe, are you free for dinner tonight? My treat." His voice was as gentle as ever. Chloe bit her lip. "Dr. Yang, this once, please," he said softly. "There's something I need to tell you in person." The restaurant was a quiet sushi place. When Chloe arrived, Dr. Yang was already there, 2 small cups of sake on the table. He was wearing a light gray suit, looking more formal than usual. "You look sharp tonight," Chloe remarked as she sat down. He smiled and poured her a drink. "Chloe, I'm moving to Baltimore. I got an offer from Johns Hopkins, a 2-year fellowship." Chloe looked up, surprised. "Congratulations. When do you leave?" "Next month," he said, meeting her eyes. "But before I go, there's something I need to tell you." He took a deep breath. "I have feelings for you. I have since college." Chloe froze, her sake cup hovering in midair. "I know the timing is terrible," Ben's voice was soft, "but I don't want to leave with regrets. I heard everything about you and Leo. He was a good man." Chloe put down her cup. "Ben, It's okay," he interrupted. "Ben," Chloe said, looking him straight in the eye, "thank you for telling me, but I can't." He managed a sad smile. "Because of him? Because of me?" Chloe said, her voice firm. "This past year I learned something. You shouldn't say you love someone until you truly know yourself. I thought I loved you. Then I thought I loved Leo. Now I know neither of those was real love." Ben listened in silence, the light in his eyes dimming. "Real love isn't dependence or possession or finding a replacement," Chloe continued. It's what he did for me, even after being hurt, still wanting the other person to grow and be happy." "You've changed a lot," Ben said finally. "I'm happy for you." That night, Chloe sat on her fire escape, looking at the stars. The fog had cleared. She thought of the broken person she was a year ago, the hysterical scene at the airport, the flash drive full of love she had never noticed. Her phone vibrated. A new friend request on WhatsApp. The request message was just 2 words. Azure Point. Chloe's heart skipped a beat. She tremblingly tapped the profile. A new account, blank profile picture, location set to Singapore. Was it him? Another coincidence? She hesitated for a long time before finally hitting accept, but she didn't send a message. He didn't say anything either. And so, in both Chloe's and Leo's contact lists, a silent new entry appeared. It was like a bridge connecting the past and future, but one that neither of them dared to cross first. Meanwhile, in a Singapore apartment, Leo stared at the "You Are Now" contacts notification on his phone. Frozen. Outside, the Marina Bay light show illuminated the night sky, but his eyes were fixed on that tiny empty chat window. He typed a message, deleted it, typed another, and deleted that one too. In the end, he sent nothing. He just put the phone on his nightstand, turned off the lights, and went to bed. That night, separated by thousands of miles, 2 people tossed and turned, staring at the same moon. The check-in line at the convention center was long. Chloe glanced down at her badge. Chloe Miller, founder, Ephemeral Digital, and a small smile touched her lips. A year ago, she was a marketing coordinator. Today, she was attending the Asia Digital Innovation Summit as an entrepreneur. "This way, please." A staffer directed her into the main hall. The room was buzzing. Chloe took a glass of champagne from a passing waiter. She was wearing a tailored beige pantsuit, her hair cut to a chic shoulder-length bob. On her wrist was the watch Leo had given her, the inside of the case engraved, "To see him, my always." "Ms. Miller," a man's voice said from behind her. "I'm a big fan of your work. David Chun from Crossover Ventures. Loved finding Elle." Chloe turned and smiled. "Thank you. That was more of a personal project. Have you considered commercial applications? We're looking to fund a strong digital narrative team." Chloe listened intently, nodding as he spoke. She was used to this now. The girl who used to hide behind Leo, afraid to talk to strangers, was now confidently discussing business models and user engagement. Halfway through their conversation, a stir at the entrance caught her attention. Chloe glanced over and froze. Lo! He was in a sharp, dark gray three-piece suit, looking even more imposing than a year ago. His hair was cut shorter, accentuating the strong lines of his face. He was talking with a group of industry veterans, a polite, distant smile on his face, the kind that never reaches his eyes. That's Leo Anderson, David Chun said, following her gaze. CTO of a hot new Singaporean tech firm just expanded back to the States. I heard his smart home system won a major award in Europe. The champagne glass felt cold in Chloe's hand. Is that right? That's impressive. Her voice was barely a whisper. As if sensing her stare, Leo looked up. His eyes cut through the crowd and met hers. For a moment, the noise of the room seemed to fade away. Chloe watched his polite smile freeze. His eyes widened slightly, and then just as quickly, his composure returned. He said something to the men he was with, and began walking toward her. Breathe, Chloe, she told herself. Don't just stand there like an idiot. Long time no see, Leo said, stopping in front of her. His voice was a low, steady rumble. Chloe forced a smile. You too. I hear you're doing great things in Singapore. She noticed the name on his badge, Amlin Tech, and her heart gave a little flutter. And Anlon from the Azure Point, the restaurant where we had our first date. Your game was a big success, Leo said, his eyes meeting hers for a second before flicking away. I never would have pegged you for a creative director. Life is full of surprises, Chloe said softly, her fingers tracing the edge of her watch. An awkward silence hung between them. David Chun cleared his throat. Well, I'll let you two catch up. I'm going to go mingle. Left alone, Chloe suddenly had no idea what to say. She'd imagined this moment 1,000 times, rehearsed 100 opening lines, and now her mind was a complete blank. So I wanted to. They both started at the same time, then stopped. You first. Leo gestured. Chloe took a breath. I brought something for you. She pulled a simple craft paper-wrapped notebook from her briefcase. It's nothing valuable, just something I wanted you to see. Leo took it. His fingertips brushed against hers, and they both recoiled as if burned. He opened it to the first page. It was a hand-drawn sketch of a coffee cup with a date next to it. The day of their first date. This is. I've been learning to draw, Chloe said, her voice unsteady, documenting some memories and reflections. Leo quickly flipped through the pages. Each one was a scene with a few lines of text. There was a drawing of the ginger tea he'd made for her after a fight, a sketch of his profile as he waited up for her to come home from work, his silhouette waiting in the rain. The last page was a drawing of a tiny sapling with the words, I learned how to plant things. You taught me. His throat tightened. He closed the book. Thank you. I'll look at it. You're welcome, Chloe said, trying to keep her voice even. Consider it another form of apology. Leo looked at her, his expression unreadable. Some scars never fade. Chloe. The words were a knife to her heart. She just nodded. I know. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I thought you should know I've changed. An announcement came over the speakers. Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The summit is about to begin. Leo put the notebook in his briefcase. I have to get to the front. I'm speaking. He paused. Good luck with everything. Chloe nodded. You too. As he walked away, Chloe finally let out a long, shaky breath. This was harder than she'd imagined. He wasn't cold or cruel. He was just calm, as if she were an old acquaintance. Maybe that was the most painful part. She no longer had the power to affect him at all. During the keynote, Chloe sat in the middle of the auditorium watching Leo on stage. He was presenting his smart home system full of thoughtful, human-centric designs. One feature was an adaptive lighting system that adjusts based on the emotional state of the household members. The inspiration for this came from a personal experience. Leo said from the stage, his eyes sweeping the audience, landing on Chloe for less than a second. Sometimes the emotions of those closest to us are the hardest things to see. Chloe gripped her pen. She knew that Feature was born from 1,000 nights when she'd been upset, and he had silently adjusted the lights and brought her a warm drink. During the Q&A, Chloe summoned her courage and raised her hand. Mr. Anderson, how does the system handle emotional misreads? For example, if a user is sad but pretending to be happy? Leo looked momentarily surprised, then recovered. We have a secondary validation protocol that cross-references with the user's historical behavior patterns. He paused. People can lie. Habits don't. Their eyes met across the room, and Chloe felt a jolt. Was he talking about the system or about them? During the lunch break, Chloe was in the restroom reapplying her lipstick. The crying, hysterical girl of a year ago was gone. In her place was a woman with steady eyes and faint smile lines. Would Leo notice? Or had he already deleted her from his life's memory bank? As she walked out, she was surprised to see Leo standing at the end of the hall, looking at his phone. The sunlight from a large window framed him in gold. She hesitated, wondering if she should turn back when his phone slipped from his hand. She hurried over to pick it up. Your phone! She stopped mid-sentence. The screen was on, displaying a photo from last year's summit. A picture of the two of them, taken before she knew he was going to leave. But what truly shocked her was his lock screen. It was the photo of them at the beach, both laughing, bathed in sunlight. Leo quickly took the phone and locked the screen, but it was too late. A strange silence fell between them. Yep, you still have those pictures, Chloe said softly. It wasn't a question. Leo pocketed the phone, never getting around to changing it. He paused, then said abruptly, Your watch has stopped. Chloe blinked and looked down at her wrist. It had. It was a mechanical watch, a birthday gift from him that needed to be wound daily. I forgot to wind it, Leo said quietly, then turned and walked away. Chloe stood rooted to the spot, watching him go. For a second, she had seen the old Leo, the man who remembered every single detail about her. And then, just as quickly, the wall was back up. After the afternoon sessions, Chloe was at her studio's booth talking to potential clients. She was so focused on explaining her proposal that she didn't notice Leo standing a short distance away, watching her. You're very impressive, Miss Miller, a client said with a smile. So young and successful. Your boyfriend must be a great guy. Chloe's smile faltered. I'm single at the moment. No way, the client said, surprised. A woman like you. My work is my partner, Chloe joked, catching a glimpse of Leo turning and walking away out of the corner of her eye. That evening, there was a cocktail reception. Chloe changed into a forest green dress and stood on the terrace for some air. The sky over the Bay Area was clear, full of stars. Mind if I join you? Leo's voice came from behind her. She turned to see him holding 2 glasses of champagne. Not at all. She took a glass. They stood side by side at the railing, a careful, respectable distance between them. Your presentation was excellent, Chloe said. I didn't realize you'd moved back to the States. The market here has more potential, Leo said, taking a sip. How's your studio? It's going well. We just landed 2 big accounts. Chloe spoke softly. I've learned a lot. How to cook, how to manage my finances, even how to fix a leaky pipe. She gave a self-deprecating smile. All the things you used to do. Leo didn't respond, just stared out at the city lights. I read your sketchbook, he said after a long silence. The drawings are very good. Chloe's heart sped up. Thank you. That little tree. Did you really plant it? Yes, it's on my balcony. A lemon tree. You said you liked the smell of lemon tea. She gathered her courage and looked at him. If you ever wanted to see it. Leo turned his head, their eyes meeting in the dim light. For a heart-stopping moment, Chloe thought he was going to say yes. But in the end, he just gave a slight shake of his head. I don't think that's a good idea. Chloe looked down, hiding her disappointment. I understand. Another silence. The evening breeze stirred Chloe's hair, carrying the first chill of autumn. "Are you cold?" Leo asked, his voice holding a trace of that old familiar concern. "A little," she answered automatically, then caught herself. In the past, whenever she'd said that, he would have taken off his jacket for her, but he didn't. He just nodded. "We should head back inside then." Chloe followed him back into the reception, her heart aching. This was the distance between them now. Even a simple, kind gesture was a luxury. Before the party ended, Chloe went to the restroom. When she returned, she saw Leo standing by her chair, slipping something in her purse. She stopped, hiding behind a pillar, and waited for him to leave before going back to her seat. She opened her purse. Inside was her watch, repaired, the time set perfectly. Tucked under the band was a small note. "The oil needs to be changed. Take it to this guy, Mr. Wong, for 15XXX. Tell him I sent you." Tears finally fell, splashing onto the familiar handwriting. He was still the same Leo, the one who remembered everything. He just wasn't hers anymore. As she was leaving the convention center, she saw Leo waiting for a car. She walked over. "Thank you for fixing my watch." Leo nodded. "It was nothing." Chloe started to say something, but a black town car pulled up. "My ride's here," Leo said, opening the door. "Goodbye, Chloe." "Goodbye, Leo," she whispered, watching the door close, taking him away. After the car drove off, Chloe noticed something on the ground. Leo's wallet. She picked it up and a photo slipped out. It was a picture of her asleep, the morning sun on her face. On the back, in his handwriting, it said, "My sunrise." Chloe stood frozen, her vision blurring. She pulled out her phone and dialed the number she hadn't called in a year. "Hello?" Leo's voice on the other end. "You dropped your wallet," she said, her own voice shaking. "There's an important photo inside." A pause. "I'll have the driver turn around." 5 minutes later, the black car was back. Leo got out and walked toward her. In the darkness, his features were sharp, his eyes holding an emotion she couldn't decipher. "Here," she said, handing him the wallet. He took it, their fingers brushing again. This time, neither of them pulled away immediately. "Thank you," he said quietly, his eyes on her face. "You've changed a lot." Chloe smiled. "So have you." They stood there. Neither wanted to be the first to say goodbye. Finally, Leo took a step back. "It's late. You should get home." "Okay." Chloe nodded. "Drive safe." Leo got back in the car. This time, he didn't look back. Chloe watched the tail lights disappear into the night, her hand clutching her phone. A moment ago, she had secretly taken a picture of the photo. Some memories were worth keeping, even if she was the only one left to remember them. At 3:17 a.m., Chloe was jolted awake by a piercing alarm from her phone. A cascade of notifications flooded her screen. Her studio servers were under attack. Client data was being compromised. She was instantly awake, running barefoot to her study. When she tried to log into the remote server, it rejected her password. She tried again. Still rejected. A cold sweat trickled down her back. This was the biggest project her studio had ever landed, holding the client's marketing strategy and user data for the next 3 years. "Stay calm, Chloe," she told herself, her fingers flying across the keyboard. "You can fix this." After trying every backup protocol, she had to face it. The attacker was far more skilled than her. The server was completely locked down. Even the backup drives were encrypted. She glanced outside. The sky was beginning to lighten. The project deadline was in 8 hours. If the data was lost, she would face catastrophic financial penalties, and her studio's reputation would be destroyed. Her finger hovered over the L in her contacts. It had been 2 weeks since the summit. They hadn't spoken. The watch he'd fixed for her lay in a drawer, untouched. She was afraid to wear it, afraid to damage his last act of kindness. Taking a deep breath, she made the call. It rang 5 times before a sleepy voice answered. "Hello, it's me, Chloe." Her voice was full of stress. "I am so sorry to call you at this hour, but I need help." There was a silence on the other end. "What is it?" My studio servers were hacked. All the data has been encrypted. She quickly explained the situation. The attacker left a ransom note demanding 5 Bitcoin, but I can't even get into the system. Text me the address. Leo's voice was suddenly sharp and awake. I'll be there in 30 minutes. After hanging up, Chloe sat stunned for a moment, then ran to the bathroom for a quick shower. The woman in the mirror had dark circles under her eyes, her lips pale from stress. She put on some lip balm, then wiped it off. Who cares what she looked like right now? The doorbell rang at exactly 3:50 a.m. She opened the door to find Leo standing in the pre-dawn light, wearing a hastily thrown-on gray hoodie and black sweatpants. His hair was a mess, a hint of stubble on his chin. He carried a laptop bag and brought the chill of the night air in with him. "Thank you for coming," she said, stepping aside. Their arms brushed and they both flinched away. Leo walked straight to her study and set up his laptop. "Give me the details." Chloe described the attack as professionally as she could. Leo listened, his brow furrowed. "This isn't a random hacker," he said, his fingers flying across the keyboard. "This was targeted. Did you piss anyone off recently?" "No, it's all just business." Then she remembered. "Wait. Last week we won a contract over another team that underbid us by half. Their project lead was pretty angry." Leo nodded, his eyes fixed on the screen. "I'll try to trace the attack vector. Go make some coffee. This could be an all-nighter." In the kitchen, her hands were still shaking. As the coffee maker hummed, she could hear Leo on the phone. "Yeah, that IP block, run a trace on recent malicious scripts. No, I'm sure it's not a standard ransomware." She brought 2 mugs of black coffee back to the study. Leo had already patched in her network, his screen a waterfall of scrolling code. "Any luck?" she asked, placing a mug next to him. He took a sip. The attacker used multiple proxies, but they left a faint trail. He pointed to a line of code. "See this? This encoding signature is very specific. I think I've seen it before." Chloe leaned in, her hair brushing his shoulder. A faint scent of her shampoo filled the air. Leo tensed for a second, then immediately refocused on his work. "I need to access a deeper level of network monitoring," he said without looking up. "Give me the credentials for your studio's backup server." Chloe typed in a password without hesitation. 3 years ago, she needed him to restart her computer when it froze. Now, she was working alongside him on a professional crisis. The thought brought a lump to her throat. She had finally become someone he could see as an equal, but only after she had lost him. Time ticked by. The sky outside grew bright. Leo alternated between furious typing and deep thought. Chloe stayed by his side, providing context when needed, refilling his coffee, and silently watching him work. "Got it." At 9 a.m., Leo suddenly sat up straight. "The attack vector's final proxy terminates at this IP. Wait a second." His expression turned strange. "What is it?" Chloe asked. "This is a test server IP from my old company," Leo said, his voice turning cold. "Rick Jang." "Rick Jang." Chloe frowned. "The guy you said framed you?" Leo nodded, his eyes like daggers. "He went to a cybersecurity firm after he was let go. Probably the same one that bid on your project." He typed furiously. "I just need to confirm." There, a block of code appeared on the screen. "See this function naming convention? Error in this comment style. It's Rick's work. No doubt about it." Chloe's eyes widened. "So, he attacked us to get back at you? More likely to prove a point," Leo sneered. "He stole my code back then to get a promotion, but it was full of bugs and he crashed and burned during the presentation. Now he's trying to prove he's better than me by attacking someone connected to me." "That's despicable," Chloe said. "What do we do?" "Call the police." Leo shook his head. "Data first. I've already found his back door." He typed a few more lines. "Give me 2 hours. I should be able to bypass the encryption and regain control." Chloe let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. "Thank you, Leo. If it wasn't for you." "Focus on the problem." He cut her off, turning back to his work. By 11 a.m. As her employees started their day, the system was 80% restored. Chloe held a remote meeting to delegate the final project delivery tasks, while Leo continued cleaning out hidden malware. Last vulnerability patched, he said at 12:30 p.m., closing his laptop. All data is restored. I've also added a new firewall and an intrusion detection system. You should be safe for a while. Chloe's eyes welled up. I don't know how to thank you. Don't, Leo said, standing up and packing his bag. I'll handle Rick. What he did is a felony, and I have all the proof I need. Chloe stood up too. At least stay for lunch. You've been up all night. Leo shook his head. I have a meeting, he paused. And you should have your team update all their passwords and enable two-factor authentication. I will, she said, walking him to the door. Leo, she turned, a question in her eyes. That whole thing with Rick framing you. Now that there's proof, will your old company? She asked carefully. A humorless smile touched Leo's lips. It doesn't matter anymore. I'm past the point of needing their validation. The words pierced Chloe's heart. He was right. They were both past needing validation from others. She was no longer the dependent girl, and he was no longer the man who would sacrifice everything for her. It was growth, but it had come at a terrible price. Goodbye, Chloe, Leo said, turning to leave. Wait, she called out. Let me at least buy you dinner as a thank you. Leo stopped but didn't turn around. Gratitude isn't love. There's no need. The soft click of the door closing echoed like a gunshot in a silent apartment. Chloe slid to the floor, hugging her knees, letting the tears fall. He was right. Gratitude wasn't love. But her feelings for him were so much more than just gratitude. And even expressing that was a luxury she couldn't afford. In the elevator, Leo stared at the descending numbers, his fists clenched. Seeing Chloe with her red-rimmed eyes, he had almost caved, but he couldn't go back. He couldn't let himself fall into that same thankless love again. His phone vibrated. A text from Catherine. Meetings postponed. Heard you saved a day for Chloe. Leo scowled. Who told you? Mark? He said Chloe called him crying because you rejected her again. Leo gritted his teeth. That gossip. Don't listen to him. It was just a professional favor. Was it? Catherine replied. Then why have you been standing outside her building for the last 10 minutes? Leo looked up and realized he was, in fact, standing on the sidewalk in front of Chloe's apartment, a finished cigarette in his hand. He cursed under his breath and strode toward the street to hail a cab. For the next 2 weeks, Chloe threw herself into her work. The studio successfully delivered the project, and the client was so impressed they referred 2 new ones. The security system Leo installed worked flawlessly. Sometimes, late at night, she would open the encrypted folder on her computer containing the logs of his work. She would trace his steps, his commands, as if by doing so, she could feel closer to him. On Friday afternoon, she received a delivery at the office. It was an elegant black box containing an expensive bottle of wine and a card. Thank you for your help, Catherine Evans. Chloe was confused. She couldn't remember helping Catherine with anything. As she was about to call her, her phone rang. It was an unknown number. Ms. Miller, this is the administrative assistant from Amlin Tech, a woman's voice said. Mr. Anderson asked me to inform you that Rick Jang has been terminated and is facing legal action. He confessed to the attack on your system and also to stealing Mr. Anderson's code 3 years ago. Chloe clutched the phone. How is Leo? Mr. Anderson is fine, the assistant said, clearly puzzled by the question. He just received a special contribution award from the board of directors. He also said that if you require any further system maintenance, you can contact our tech department at any time. Chloe's heart sank. He would have his assistant call, but he wouldn't call her himself. Thank you. I won't need to, she said, her voice professional. And please congratulate him for me. She hung up and opened the wine, pouring herself a glass. The rich liquid was smooth with a bitter finish. She picked up her phone, her thumb hovering over Leo's contact, but she couldn't bring herself to press it. Some people were only meant to exist in memory. At 9 p.m., Leo stood at his office window looking out at the city. His phone lit up. A text from Catherine. Did she get the wine? She got it, he replied. Thanks. Why don't you give it to her yourself? Leo didn't answer. He didn't know how to explain that he was afraid to see her, afraid his resolve would crumble. That night, at her apartment, watching her work, he had almost forgotten all the pain. She had changed. She was better. And that very fact was proof that leaving had been the right thing to do. Sometimes the cruelest truth isn't that someone isn't good enough, but that they finally become good enough and it no longer has anything to do with you. His phone buzzed again. It was Mark. You know, Chloe's going to be in Austin next week for the Digital Creative Expo, right? Leo frowned. So you just happen to have a business trip to Austin next week, don't you? Mark's message was crystal clear. Leo locked his phone and ignored him, but 10 minutes later, he was on his laptop looking up the schedule for the expo. Chloe's studio was listed as an exhibitor and she was a featured speaker. He stared at the screen, his thumb unconsciously rubbing the photo in his wallet. His mind told him to keep his distance. But a small voice in his heart asked, if fate kept pushing them together, would he have the courage to try again? Outside, a full moon hung in the sky, its cold light spilling across his desk, illuminating the black flash drive, the one containing all the memories of Chloe he had never truly deleted, only encrypted and hidden away, just like his feelings for her. Leo stared into the cardboard box, his brow furrowed. The movers had packed up most of his life, leaving just this last box of personal items for him to sort through. Inside was a jumble of award certificates, project proposals, a few technical books, and a craft paper sketchbook, the one Chloe had given him at the summit. He picked it up, his thumb tracing the cover. In the month since their reunion, he hadn't found the courage to open it again. He'd only flipped through it once quickly. The drawings were too vivid, too painful. Mr. Anderson, where do you want these books? A mover asked, breaking his concentration. Just on the shelves, Leo said, stuffing the sketchbook into his briefcase. I have to run to the office. Just follow the checklist for the rest. Outside, the early summer sun was bright. Leo hailed the cab and gave his office address. But as the car started to move, he heard himself say, wait, go to 36 Sycamore Lane first. The driver changed course, heading west. Leo didn't know why he was going there. 36 Sycamore Lane was an old house he and Chloe had stumbled upon 3 years ago. They had joked about buying it one day, opening a coffee shop on the ground floor and living upstairs. Chloe had even drawn up design plans. She would handle the decor. He would handle the coffee. The cab dropped him at the end of the lane. He walked down the quiet street shaded by a canopy of sycamore trees. Number 36 was in the middle of the block, a 3-story brick house with a small front garden. Leo stopped across the street, just looking at it. 3 years later, it was still there, but the facade had a fresh coat of paint, and the garden looked tended. He gave a sad smile and turned to leave. Just then, a familiar figure emerged from the house. Chloe. She was in a simple white t-shirt and denim shorts, her hair in a messy ponytail, a pair of gardening shears in her hand. She walked to a small tree in the center of the garden and bent down to inspect its leaves. Leo was frozen to the spot. That tree, if he wasn't mistaken, was a lemon tree. He had once mentioned offhandedly that he liked the smell of lemon tea. Chloe stood up, wiped her brow, and her gaze drifted across the street. She saw him. They stared at each other across the quiet lane. Time seemed to stop. Chloe moved first. She put down the shears and walked slowly toward the gate. Leo watched her approach, his heart pounding. "What are you doing here?" she asked from behind the gate, her voice soft as if afraid to break the spell. Leo opened his mouth, but didn't know what to say. That he was just passing by? That he was thinking about their old joke? That he had never forgotten their house? "I'm moving." It was on the way, he finally said, offering the lamest excuse. Chloe nodded, not calling him on his lie. Sycamore Lane was nowhere near any logical route between his old apartment and his new office. "Do you want to come in?" she asked, opening the gate. "I was just doing some pruning." He should have said no, but his feet were already moving. The garden was even more beautiful up close. A stone path wound its way to the front door, flanked by lavender and rosemary, drought-resistant plants. He remembered saying he hated anything high maintenance. In the corner was a small gazebo with 2 wicker chairs and a small table, exactly as he'd once described. And in the center, the lemon tree stood tall and lush. "It's growing well," Chloe said, touching a leaf. "I did a lot of research. Lemon trees need a lot of sun, and you have to let the soil dry out between waterings." Leo's gaze fell on a small wooden plaque at the base of the tree. Engraved on it were the words Leo and Chloe's love tree. A lump formed in his throat. You bought this place?" he asked, his voice trembling. Chloe nodded. "A year and 2 months ago." She paused. 3 weeks after you left." The timeline hit him like a punch to the gut. He thought this was a recent development, something that happened after they reconnected. But no, she had done this when the wound was still fresh, when they were at their lowest. "Why?" he heard himself ask. She didn't answer right away. She led him to the gazebo. On the table was a sketchbook. She opened it to reveal detailed architectural drawings, a coffee shop, a living area, a studio. Every detail matched their old fantasy. "Remember?" She smiled. "We said we'd open a coffee shop together. You'd make the coffee, I'd make the pastries. We'd wake up to the smell of fresh grounds and watch the stars from the terrace at night." Of course, he remembered. It was from a time when they were poor but happy, dreaming in their tiny apartment. Later, as their careers took off, the dream was forgotten. "I thought you forgot," he said quietly. "I forgot a lot of things, but not this," she said, closing the book. "When I bought this place, I didn't even know how to use an espresso machine. Now, I'm a pretty good baker and I have my barista certification." She gestured to the house where, through the window, he could see a professional-grade espresso machine gleaming on a coffee bar. Leo felt a wave of vertigo. None of this felt real. The house, the garden, the lemon tree, the coffee bar. It was as if someone had plucked a fantasy from his mind and built it in the real world. And that someone was the Chloe who used to not even know how to pay the utility bills. "You've been preparing all this?" he asked. "Even when you didn't know if I would ever come back?" Chloe nodded, her eyes clear. "At first I was hoping you would. But then it became something I was doing for myself." She ran a hand over the sketchbook. "I needed to prove that even without you, I could become someone worthy of what we had." The afternoon sun slanted into the gazebo, lighting up her face. He noticed the changes in her. She was tanner, her arms more toned, her nails short and clean, free of their usual polish. These were the hands of someone who worked. The sketchbook. He suddenly remembered. "What's on the last page?" Chloe smiled. "You finally decided to look." Leo pulled the book from his briefcase and flipped to the end. It wasn't blank. It was a hand-drawn floor plan of the house with the address and a single sentence. "I'm here waiting for you, or not waiting for you." The date was from a year ago, long before they had reconnected. "I drew a page a day," she explained softly, "starting from the day you left. First it was memories, then it was fantasies, and finally reality." Leo's hand trembled as he looked back through the pages. Every place they had been, every fight they'd had, every smile they'd shared, and then her new life. Learning to code, planting flowers, her first burnt cake, the certificate from her barista course. And the final page, this house. "Why this house?" he asked, his voice choked. Chloe looked at the lemon tree. "Because this is the place where I finally learned how to love." She turned to him, her eyes wet, but her smile bright. "Whether you forgive me or not, I wanted to start over here." Leo couldn't hold it in any longer. Tears blurred his vision. He looked down, not wanting her to see him break. But Chloe stepped forward and gently wrapped her arms around him. It was a light, tentative hug, giving him every opportunity to pull away. But he didn't. He hugged her back, burying his face in her shoulder, breathing in the scent of sun, soil, and coffee. It wasn't the fiery embrace of their old love, or the desperate clinging of their breakup. It was something new, a quiet warmth, like 2 scarred travelers meeting after a storm and finding that they had both grown stronger. "I planted rosemary," she whispered in his ear. "You said it was for remembrance." Leo held her tighter. He wanted to say so much about forgiveness, about starting over, about the sleepless nights he'd spent thinking of her. But in the end, all he could manage was a soft thank you in her ear. The sun began to set, stretching their shadows long across the garden path. The lemon tree swayed. In the breeze, its tiny green fruits just beginning to form. The scent of coffee drifted from the house, mingling with the lavender and rosemary. They didn't talk about the future. They made no promises. They didn't even say the words, "Let's get back together." But here, in the house they had dreamed of, in the fading light of day, it was enough. Leo pulled back and took her hand. "Show me your espresso machine." Chloe laughed, the lines around her eyes crinkling in the golden light. "It's not as good as yours." "I can teach you," Leo said, "just like you taught me how to plant things." They smiled at each other and walked toward the house together. A wind chime on the porch tinkled in the breeze, as if welcoming someone home.